Are you looking for valuable business advice to reach that 7-figure revenue mark? Do you want actionable tips to properly navigate through every business challenge you encounter along the way? Let Tersh Blissett and Josh Crouch be your guide in getting you to the top here at Service Business Mastery. Tune in as they sit down with world-renowned authors in business, leadership, and personal growth who share valuable insights about management, marketing, pricing, human resources, and so much more. Let their nuggets of wisdom gold guide you in owning a thriving, profitable, and ever-growing business. Here are your hosts, Tersh and Josh.
Hello, everyone out there in podcast world. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Today, we're not talking on a normal day, and that's the reason why it's just me. Josh isn't here. I kind of threw this on him on the last second. I asked Miss Diane to come on the show, and the only time that I could really do it at the same time as she had her schedule open was today. And so I was like, yes, please come on today. And we're going to talk about a question that's it's not something new. It's the employee retention credit. Employee retention credit. But it's some things have changed about it, and there's a lot of money available to small business owners. And I wanted to ask Miss Diane about that. And so we talked a little bit before the recording here. And if you have any questions, if you're watching this live, please don't hesitate to ask in the comment section, and we'll get those questions answered as soon as possible. I would like to welcome you to the show, Miss Diane.
Tersh, thank you for having me back. It's always a pleasure to come in and chat with you for a bit.
Yeah, pleasure's all mine. We were on, when was the last time we talked?
Probably
a year?
3 months or 4 months ago.
Okay, yeah, it's everything flies by so fast.
It does.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about ERC. What is it? Employee retention credit?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Before we get started with any of this, Miss Diane brought this to my attention, and I'm like, I should say this more often. Make sure you seek legal counsel from your CPA, your tax lawyers. We are not providing any kind of legal advice. We're just going through our experience. Now, if you would like to use Miss Diane, you can reach out to her and for her services. But just make sure you research this and ask for your professionals for their advice before you go and doing anything when it comes to taxes. So, Miss Diane, for those who didn't hear the last episode, didn't see us live, what exactly is it that you do?
I'm a profit and a tax coach. So I get to come into your business, help you plug those gushing leaks where profit's leaking out of your business. Once we do that, we fix your bottom line profit numbers start soaring, and then we create a tax problem. So then I get to come help you fix the tax problem and put that cash back in your business as well.
That's what I like to hear. I mean, I don't like to hear creating problems, but solving them, that's for sure. Yeah. And it's I've been guilty of this myself 100%. And that is if I don't know about it, is it really gonna hurt me? You know, I'm like,
it does.
It's ignorance is bliss. Like, oh, that's QuickBooks. Yeah, I'm just gonna send that off to the CPA at the end of the year. But yeah, I love the programs and everything that you offer when it comes to Profit First. And Mike is a buddy of mine. Mike McCallowis is a buddy of mine. If y'all haven't, he's been on the show 4 or 5 times. And if you haven't read his book, Profit First, Pumpkin Plan, Fix This Next. If you'd like to learn more about our business, you can read Fix This Next. We were honored to be featured in that book with Mike. But it's really cool whenever you get hooked up with someone like Miss Diane that where you're just like, all right, I want to do Profit First, but what percentages do I use? Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, well, that works for that company, but does it work for contractors? And Miss Diane, she works, I know personally, she's worked with several friends of mine, so I can speak from experience. They rave about how much more they know now than what they did beforehand. And it's like, when I ask them a question, this certainty of, they're like very matter of fact yes, this is what the number has to be. This is what we have to sell it at. I'm like, but do you really? And they're like, yes, I know my numbers. This is what it has to be. So I think that's really awesome that's the case.
I love it when they come into the program, they're scared to death of their numbers. And when they come out of the program, they have that attitude. It's like, I know what my numbers are. And you watch the shift in their minds as they make that mindset shift. It's pretty rewarding to get to be the guide who gets to guide them through the process.
I like that. It's that, and I love what you said there. If you didn't pick up on the fact that Miss Diane mentioned that she's a guide, she's not the hero, and that kind of comes back to Donald Miller story brand type stuff. And you could use that same mentality with your clients and just guide your clients through the experience of working with your business. And you're not always the hero. And once you kind of get to that mindset, it really makes a massive change in the way that you can serve your customers. Today, we're going to talk about the ERC. And before we get started, can you explain what that is? It's not new, but it is new. Can you tell us about that?
You bet. It originally came about through the CARES Act late in 2020. And it was originally put together so that employers would be incentivized to hang on to their employees, keep them on the payroll. And we were told at the very beginning that the money would be forthcoming in 7 to 10 days. Ha, ha, ha. We have people who have applied for fourth quarter of last year and still haven't seen money come through.
Oh, wow.
So it's really slow. But it does come eventually. You just got to be able to hold on. But it was originally created to help those businesses hold on, keep their people in place, keep them from going on unemployment, some of that type of stuff. Same type of thing with that PPP loan was, keep the workers employed.
Yeah, it sounds very similar to the PPP. Could you use both of them? Like, could you have both of them?
You could. Originally, you couldn't. They originally came out the gate and said if you had a PPP, you could not utilize the employment retention credit. Then they changed their minds and said, yes, you can do both, but you can't double dip on the same wages. So when you originally applied for your PPP loan, if you used it up in somewhere between 8 to 24 weeks, that money was PPP, which meant most people didn't start using the ERC or the employment retention credit till maybe fourth quarter of last year, just because their PPP money would have carried them through to that point in time.
Oh, okay. All right. Now, is there other time periods when we can use that? Like, is it just fourth quarter of last year?
Nope. We can use it maybe even as early as third quarter last year. Okay. Then they came out and said, okay, it was originally supposed to go away at the end of last year. And then they did an update and said that we'll run it through first and second quarter of 2021. We all went, yay. And then they came out later and they said, now it's going to run through the end of this year. But we're finding fewer people are qualifying for it now than last year and early this year.
Okay.
At least in my own clientele.
Okay. And is there a way for us to actually know if we're qualified? Like,
yes.
How do we do that?
For 2020, you had to have either a full or partial shutdown or suspension of your business. And that's due to whether it's your state, your county, your city. Somebody had to put out the decree that said full or partial suspension. Or if that was not the case, if your revenues were down by 50% for that quarter compared to that same quarter in the prior year. For 2021, that number changed to 20% less than what it was in 2020. So it made it a little bit easier to meet it the first couple of quarters of 2021. In 2020, you were limited to the first 50% of the first $10,000 of every employee's wages, or $5,000 per person. In 2021, they changed that and they went up to 50% of the 70% of the first 20,000 in compensation, or 14,000 as a max. So that's why a lot of companies are starting to phase out and not be able to utilize it now as we're hitting third quarter, because they probably have used up that $14,000 max in first and second, or they didn't meet it because of revenue, or they were no longer partially or fully shut down.
Okay, so
A lot of tests.
Yeah, right. So there's an or thing there, right? So it's like you have to you had to have met this qualification, or you have to meet this qualification.
Correct.
And or so if we didn't lose revenue last year, like if we look at our year over year and we don't show a loss of 50% or a loss of 20%, what can we do? Like, how can we qualify for that? Like, so like home service business owners, there's a lot of home service business owners that, we actually made more money through that in certain areas. But a lot of businesses had to pivot, had to change, had to do some really, like, it wasn't a comfortable shift, but had to really make a shift in order to make more money. But then there's other things that kind of play in there. You may still qualify. Is that correct?
Maybe.
Okay.
Kind of, sort of.
Yeah.
this whole rule has been changed so many times.
Right.
And I keep equating it back to PPP because they were changing their minds like 50 times. They changed their minds. Well,
Yeah.
we're coming up on a whole bunch of times where they've changed their mind on ERC as well.
Okay.
So that whole partial or full suspension is a biggie. Certain states were locked down tighter than others were. And so if you fall into that category, you're a given. Otherwise, then it's the gross revenue, and we have to compare it to the same quarter in either if you were in 2020 compared to 2019 or 2021 compared back to 2020.
Okay. So, all right. Because I heard somewhere that they were, even in 2021, they were comparing it to 2019 or something like that. Is that right? Or is it?
If you're a newer business and you weren't in business, then we have some different rules for you there.
Oh, okay.
And I've got like pages of notes here because this thing is so convoluted, and
I know
it's not a quick, easy, can you just go across the table and say I qualify?
Yeah. And that's the confusing part about it, because there's a lot of money set aside for this.
There is.
But do you feel like there's going to be a situation to where, like, the wrong people are applying for it, and then they come back and they get their hands slapped because they got approved for it, and then they come back and they're like, oh, you shouldn't have been approved for that,
Right.
blah, blah, blah. Because I remember in PPP, like, you just hear, like, oh, these people got all this money that they shouldn't have gotten for PPP,
Right.
and now they're getting their hand slaps on that.
ERC is a little different because it's done on a payroll tax return. So they actually know what your numbers are.
Okay.
So that was a little harder.
Yeah.
To get the wrong people in it. But I suppose it could be done, but my only experience is with my own clients.
Yeah.
And I would venture to say that most accountants across the country were not proactively talking to their clients about this.
Oh, right. Yeah. Because when we were in our coaching organization and somebody mentioned it, and then it was like, ding, 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 red flag. Like, what is that? What are they talking about? And so then that's whenever I put the post out on Facebook or LinkedIn, and I asked you, and then emailed you and asked you, I was asking, does anybody know anything about this? Like, what is this? Like, and that's how we got on the conversation about it, because our CPA, they weren't proactive about mentioning it at all. And so it's like, wow, I need to, like, I don't want to educate myself, but at the same time, I need to educate what's going on. Hey, Larry.
We put it in our blog post. We put it in our monthly newsletter. We sent a letter out to our clients. And I know we're an anomaly. We're not your normal accounting firm, but we wanted our clients to know. And prior to even notifying them, we did the work of kind of sort of pre-qualifying them before we reached out to them. So we had an answer when we first reached out as to, it appears you're going to qualify or not. And so that really helped them with some of that confusion at the beginning.
Yeah. And as you can tell by just listening to my question, I'm sure you have questions also. If you do, just let us know. But there's a lot to this, and it's changing constantly. And just like the PPP was. And so if you got approved for your second PPP, that's going to mess with these numbers also. Isn't it?
Yes, because you're gonna want to look at this section of time as PPP, this section of time as ERC. For 2021, we might want to take the ERC first so we don't run out of wages, and then take the PPP. I mean, there's a lot of strategy that goes into how do you make this thing work.
That's crazy.
It is. Yeah, we bought this very expensive spreadsheet to be able to even work this through with our clients because it's not easy. It's not just go down the line, check the boxes, and yes, you qualify.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you have questions, if you'd like to learn more about Diane, and it's just so you know, she knows a lot more about this. I mean, you heard whenever we first started, it's more than just this, but you can go to profitcoachforyou.com, and that's with the number 4. And then you spelled out, but profitcoachforyou.com. And is there anywhere else that they should go to learn more about you or learn about this?
Probably just if they can reach out to me through that website. You're not going to find, well, you'll find a blog post about it, but that's about it on that site because that's mainly where we do our Profit First coaching and that type of thing is there.
So Travis, in the live feed, in the live stream, Travis brought up a great question, and you and I spoke about this a little bit before we recorded, but it's great because we've talked about it a lot within our group, and that is, can you qualify due to a shortage of equipment, or if you've lost sales due to the government shutting down particular manufacturers?
That gets a little harder. And all I can tell you is what I've seen from all the webinars and stuff that I've taken is that the only way we can qualify is if we meet the revenue requirement or the government doing that partial or fully shut down for us, not necessarily if they fully shut down our suppliers. So
it's got to be like so if Savannah, Georgia did a mandate and they shut down everything, what if we were considered essential employees?
And then we weren't shut down, so then we wouldn't necessarily qualify on that one. Then we have to meet the revenue requirement.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then what happens if you have a service area that's a large service area? Is it each one of the cities that you serve in the service area, or?
If I would, well, and this is my personal opinion.
Yeah.
If any city in that area you were shut down and you weren't able to go in, you might need it under that partial shutdown piece.
Okay.
But we'd want to go in, we'd pull in the numbers and make sure that we can meet that so that you could, potentially take it.
Cool.
Yeah, it's very complicated. It's not quick and easy.
It is very gray and muddy and there's not a black and white for sure.
Not at all.
Yeah, you definitely need to reach out to your CPA. And if you're looking for one, reach out and learn more from Diane and her team.
And then, Trish, just real quick, before we went live, we were talking about the latest little bubble in this with the IRS changed their mind just a couple weeks ago.
That too.
And now they're saying that the wages for the owners are not going to qualify for this credit if this particular owner owns more than 50% of their company and has a living relative of any sort on the universe. So I was telling Trish, unless you came from an egg or you're total, actually, you were an orphan, you have no relatives of any sort, then our own wages are not going to qualify now. So then that brings up the question, what about everybody who filed for maybe third or fourth quarter, first and second, maybe for all 4 quarters? Do we have to go back and amend those because the IRS changed their mind in August? We don't know.
Yeah. I mean, what happens if you get audited and they're like, oh yeah, you know, this is fraudulent. Like you said this and it's actually this. And like, well, the IRS changed it after I filed for it.
Yeah, the last webinar I was on earlier this week, which is why I asked you to wait till today, because this was put on by an attorney, and his personal opinion was because we filed in good faith that we shouldn't have to go back and amend, but until we get some further guidance, we don't know. Because none of us want to be, we're not committing fraud. We did what they said what was available at the time.
So much fun stuff. I love how clear and precise it is with the government. It's one of those things. It's like, we know exactly how much you owe. Okay, then tell us. No, we won't. We're not going to tell you. But if you're wrong, you're going to get in trouble.
That's right.
That's awesome. Thank you, Ms. Diane, for coming on and sharing your time and knowledge with us.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for having me. And anytime I can be of service to your community, just let me know.
I appreciate it so much. I hope you have a wonderful day. Anybody has any questions at all, don't forget profitcoachforyou.com and visit there. And then also not just for this, but for profit coaching in general, reach out and learn more from Miss Diane and her team.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Service Business Mastery. Now that you are equipped with essential business advice from this impactful conversation, you are one step closer to becoming the successful owner of your dreams. If this episode has been helpful to your business journey, don't forget to subscribe to the show, leave a rating, and share it with other owners as well. Visit servicebusinessmastery.com to learn more.